USC women's basketball advances to the Sweet 16 for the first time in 30 years.
USC baseball looks to climb up the Pac-12 ranks as it faces number 2 Oregon State.
The show Ohtani must go on? We explain what happened with baseball's biggest star.
That's right, Juju Watkins and the Trojans are still dancing their way through March. Welcome back to Sports Scene. I'm Casey Kasliner.
I'm Terrence Holton.
And I'm Grace Schneider. USC women's basketball is on fire as the Trojans head into the Sweet 16 round of the NCAA tournament. Juju Watkins has led the Trojans in their 7-game winning streak. On Monday, the Trojans played their last home game of the season, defeating 8-seeded Kansas 73-55. In front of a crowd of about 9,000, freshman guard Juju Watkins put up 28 points, while graduate guard Mackenzie Forbes scored 6 of USC's season-high 13 three-pointers. After the game, Forbes admitted that she knew her shot was on point on Monday.
Just staying poised. I think I mentioned it the other night, like we matured a lot through that Pac-12 tournament, and I think just through the year we've seen everything. We've seen zones, we've seen junk defense, we've seen man, so I think all of us, especially the guards, just kind of staying ready. You don't really know where your shot may come from, but I was feeling it from 3, so I was just trying to be confident in that area.
For the first time in 30 years, the Trojans have officially punched their ticket to the Sweet 16. Number 1 seed USC will face number 5 seed Baylor. If the Trojans defeat the Bears, they would take on either number 7 seeded Duke or number 3 seeded UConn in the Elite 8. The Sweet 16 stage is set as the Trojans will face the Bears on Saturday in Portland, Oregon.
They have to.
In a nail-biting win against Virginia Tech, Baylor's junior guard Jada Walker erupted with 28 points, playing her best game of the season. USC should also keep an eye on senior guard Sarah Andrews, as she has stepped up her game this tournament season, assisting the Bears to victory. So we know Juju has been a major piece of USC's puzzle this season, but what are some other players that you guys think could help propel this USC team to success in this tournament?
Well, I'm going with Rhea Marshall. I mean, she's been the anchor of the defensive ship all season, and really she stepped up a lot more lately. Against Kansas, she had 4 steals and 2 blocks, proving that she's not just a force inside, but she can make steals and force turnovers. Look, I'm loving Rhea Marshall down on the block on offense and defense, but I think she's going to step up huge on the defensive side of the ball against a Baylor team that's really deep top to bottom.
You know, guys, I'm going to go with the bench. Casey, you just mentioned Baylor is very deep top to bottom. The bench is going to need to be very good for the Trojans if they want to win this game. They were great against Kansas, came off. You saw Clarice Okunwafo came in for Rhea Marshall. She was great. I think more people like Taylor Bigby need to step up, be ready to go when their number's called.
Yeah, my pick is Kayla Padilla. She has been a much more confident shooter, especially from that three-point line. In this past game against Kansas, she was responsible for 3 of USC's 3 points. I'm excited to see what all these players will contribute.
We shall see.
The women's tournament has been full of stars. Let's go to Gabby Petrone to talk about some of the standouts.
With March Madness finally underway, we need to talk about some of the most remarkable players in the tournament. 3 standout women's players are Caitlin Clark, Juju Watkins, and Paige Bueckers. These 3 are the queens of the court. Starting off with Caitlin, she has clearly made a big name for herself in college basketball. In her very last game on her home court, she did not disappoint with an astounding 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. She continues to go above and beyond in every game, and I can't wait to see what she has in store for the remainder of this tournament. Next up, we have Juju, who has been such a game-changing player this season. She brings the electricity to the team and sparks a fire in all of her teammates. She was the lead scorer of the game with 28 points and 11 rebounds. While watching the game, you simply can't miss her because she really is such a standout player. And let's not forget about Paige Bueckers. She has so much potential that cannot be overlooked. This was her 5th straight game with at least 25 points. In Monday's game against Syracuse, Paige finished with a game high of 32 points and 10 rebounds, giving her a double-double in addition to having 1 block and 4 steals. These women have all changed the game for women's college basketball. Being Juju's first season with the Trojans, it would be thrilling to bring home a national title. However, it is Caitlin's last chance to win the tournament, and with the attention she's brought to college basketball, I might have to root for Iowa. If all goes well and USC ends up playing UConn in the Elite Eight, watching the matchup between Paige and Juju will be heated. And if USC advances to hopefully play Iowa, we might encounter one of the most intense Final Four matches of all time, and I'll be happy with whoever comes out on top. When looking at who will dominate this March, I think keeping Iowa, USC, and UConn winning it all is the best choice you can make given the impact these incredible players have on their teams. I can't wait to watch these 3 stellar players this weekend and see who makes it to the Elite Eight. Sending it to Terrence to discuss the men's side of things.
The NCAA tournament kicked off last week with the round of 64 and 32 already taking place with wild finishes and upsets all around the country. In the round of 64, 2 mid-majors shocked SEC giants as Oakland beat Kentucky after Jack Golke blew up for his 10 made three-pointers. Then the next day, Yale took down SEC tournament champion Auburn after a dramatic finish. Sadly, the only upset in the round of 32 was 6-seeded Clemson defeating Baylor. The Sweet 16 tips off this Thursday, where all eyes will be on the 1 seeds, all of which are still hopeful to make a run to the Final Four. Most of the country will be rooting for NC State and hoping their Cinderella run will continue. On the other side of the bracket, a possible matchup between Arizona guard Caleb Love and his former team North Carolina feels imminent. So who do you guys have making a deep run to the Final Four?
Well, Terrence, like you said, the Cinderella run that NC State has been making is something that I and probably the rest of the country wants to support. But Terrence, I might have not been here last week, but I did hear what you had to say about the ACC being bad at basketball. But I have to ask you, how can they be bad at basketball when 25% of the teams left are ACC teams? That's why I have NC State being my pick, because they've already beat teams like UNC and Duke, those top ACC teams. I think they can go all the way, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about NC State, we talk about deep teams. They had 5 players going double figures against Oakland, and look, DJ Burns is one of the better stories. I know they're playing Marquette, who's a 2-seed, but Marquette barely beat 10-seeded Colorado. Yeah. And they won by 4 points. Marquette's been shaky this year. So, look, I got NC State as well. I have them going all the way, honestly, at this point. I think they can win the national title. And I think DJ Burns is the greatest story, coming out of nowhere and winning all these games at the right time. Lightning in a bottle, that's all what March is about.
You guys are both absurd. Yes, Grace, I'm sorry I trashed the ACC. They have an 8-1 record in the NCAA tournament, with that one loss being Virginia. Creighton is taking this thing home. Maybe they're not going to win it. They're definitely going to the Final Four. They have 3 players averaging over 17 a game in Baylor Shireman, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and Trey Alexander. They are by far the most well-rounded team, and they would destroy NC State.
Oh, really? We'll see about that.
NC State's not making it past Marquette. Can we be honest about this?
But we want them to. It's a fun, interesting story. It's March.
Marquette is fraudulent. I don't know what you're talking about. How do you only beat Pac-12 mid-team Colorado?
Is an incredible offense. They put up 103 points, I want to say, on Florida.
We haven't seen that all year. Yeah. It's lightning in a bottle.
I strongly disagree, but okay.
Well, let's move to the football side of things. 5 high school recruits committed to Lincoln Riley's program on Sunday to help bolster the defense. USC added highly touted recruits and even flipped 5-star defensive lineman Justice Terry's commitment from Georgia. Coach Riley spoke on how the first days of practice have been with the 2024 recruits.
It's been 2 really physical days. It has been. Guys have gotten after it. The defense was certainly the more physical unit. The first day of pads, offense probably we had the upper hand on that today, but it's been kind of close. It's been back and forth. We've really I think slowed down installations really on both sides. I know we've talked a lot defensively, but we've tried to do it on both and really spend a lot of time, on fundamentals.
So how do you guys feel about the defensive program shaping up for next season and beyond?
I'm really excited about the culture change that's coming for this program. You see a guy like Eric Henderson, who's brought in from the Rams. What he's doing to this program is incredible. You see Aaron Donald in these hype-up videos for USC football. It's showing recruits that USC is turning a page and really cares about defense. And I really think it's showing a sign that USC is going to be great in the future.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Eric Henderson and everything he's been able to do thus far, like flipping Justice Terry from UGA. This is only the beginning for him. And, this season, upcoming season, season might be a little rocky, we have to remember that this kind of thing takes time. So just seeing their new recruiting class for 2025, it's looking up.
Yeah, well, they signed 3 top 100 2025 recruits, and I agree. I think if you're flipping a guy from Georgia who's been a powerhouse in the last decade, I think that's plenty of upside for Danton Lynn and company. I'm really excited and agree. The culture shift is what they've needed to kind of cement themselves as a better defense now moving into the Big Ten and having to face much tougher offenses.
I want to point out how impressive it is to get these guys. They are in Alabama, they are in LSU, they are in Georgia territory. And for USC to go get all of them, currently USC has 3 recruits from Georgia in the class of 2024, including Julian Lewis, the quarterback from Atlanta. It is incredibly impressive what they are doing, and I think it really shows a sign that Lincoln Riley is starting to actually care about defense.
Well, let's take a dive into another sport. USC men's swimming hopes to put their names in the record books at the Nationals.
And beach volleyball heads down south to defend its #1 rank at the Death Volley Invitational.
USC baseball continued its losing ways this past weekend after beaming a light of hope for fans when they beat UCLA 15-2. However, then dropping the next 2 games to the Bruins. The Trojans currently sit at 9th in the Pac-12 standings and are one of only 2 teams who has yet to hit the double-digit mark for wins on the season. There is opportunity to move up the standings, however, as USC only sits a few games behind Stanford, who is in 6th. Coming up, unfortunately, the Trojans are taking on number 2 Oregon State, who only has 2 losses on the season. The Trojans' biggest concern will be second baseman Travis Bazzana. Bazzana is hitting a ridiculous .467 with 36 total RBIs and 14 home runs. In the Beavers' last game against Washington, Bazzana had 2 home runs. It feels unlikely the baseball team will turn around their luck this week. However, anything can happen in the month of March.
The #1 ranked USC beach volleyball team is back in action this week. The Trojans will take a trip to Baton Rouge, Louisiana for the Death Volley Invitational against other ranked opponents. One of USC's upcoming opponents, Florida State, has been electric this season. The Seminoles are 19-2 with losses only on neutral sand. FSU has won its last 5 matches, and the Seminoles, however, are 5-20 against USC all time and lost to the Trojans twice last year. In addition to the Seminoles, TCU is also ranked inside the top 5 and will participate in the tournament as well. Pac-12 rivals UCLA and Stanford have also made noise this season and will look to dethrone the Trojans. USC will commence invitational play against the Horned Frogs on Friday at 9:30 a.m.
USC men's swim and diving is gearing up for the NCAA championships. Ranked number 21, the Trojans will head to Indiana University to face their stiff competition. The Trojans had 6 swimmers qualify for the NCAA championships in 9 different events. Freshman Krzysztof Szymilewski and his twin brother Michael will lead the Trojans into the championships. USC's 6 swimmers and 3 divers will prepare for the championship in Indianapolis, which will commence on Wednesday. Now let's send it over to the couch to get Will and Thomas's picks for their Trojans of the week.
Well, there are only a few options Will and I can choose from this week. Women's basketball is heading to the Sweet 16, and it would be criminal if we both didn't choose from Lindsay Gottlieb's squad. I'm going with Mackenzie Forbes. The graduate guard has been on a tear as of late, scoring 43 points between her last 2 games. She tied a career high, knocking down 6 triples against Kansas, and had her best field goal percentage of the season against Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
Forbes has been a big piece for the Trojans all year, but I'm going with a breakout star from the weekend, center Clarice Akinwafo. Akinwafo hosted her own personal block party at Galen Center to tip off the tournament. She blocked 11 shots over the course of the 2 games in limited minutes, making sure the Trojans' stout-paid defense remained with Rhea Marshall off the court. It feels like football season. We both went with players from the same sport. Why'd you go with Forbes?
It's all about consistency, Will. In that first game against Texas A&M, Forbes co-led the team in scoring with 23 points, added 20 against Kansas. Akinwafo, sure, she had a good game against Kansas, but against Corpus Christi, 0 points, 2 fouls. You can't choose your Trojan of the week for somebody who had more fouls than points in one of the games.
Yeah, that's what we call collective right there, because as I've established, I didn't take her for the points, I took her for the blocks, and there were plenty of those in the Corpus Christi game. She had 5 total, and then another 6 against Kansas. And a really good indicator to tell you how big of an impact you're making is the minutes you are played, especially in a win or go home postseason game in March Madness. And she had more points than any other, more minutes than any other Trojan center in the second half against Kansas when that was a tight game in the third quarter. It shows she's earned the trust of her coach.
USC won by 18.
Yes.
She scored 5 points. And, okay, let's say she does not get those blocks. Kansas scores all 12 points in the paint. That's 17 points attributed to her. USC still wins by 1. If Mackenzie Forbes doesn't score her 20 points against Kansas, USC loses.
Well, that was a tight game in the third quarter in part because, yes, she made 6 threes. The total stat line for her is 6 of 19 from the field. That is not good. That is 31% from the field. She was very bad from 2. Not to mention she turned the ball over 6 times. Yes, she was better against A&M Corpus Christi, but as you're so fond of saying, if the opponent stinks, it doesn't count. She was
This is an NCAA tournament game.
She was an inefficient player in that Kansas game, and she was not as effective as Akinwafo at what she did.
Okay, Watkins has not been, Juju Watkins is always inefficient, and yet we call her the greatest player on this team. If Forbes can be inefficient...
She's not always inefficient. What are you talking about?
Will, she has been pretty inefficient, and yet she still made the AP All-American first team. If you can put up 20 points while being inefficient, sure. But Akinwafo, she was not consistent throughout the entire weekend. I don't know how you can make her Trojan of the Week.
She was absolutely consistent on the defensive side the entire weekend. That's why you saw her minutes go up. That's why she was a plus 15 in the second half against Kansas. Outstanding weekend, Trojan of the Week.
Okay. I don't think so, but we actually have a special segment planned today. I hope you like more debates. I'm being told in my ear as we speak by my producers a debate topic that Will and I have not had time to prepare for live. So, Will, I have a question for you.
Here.
Who would be the better basketball player between USC alums Randy Johnson or Reggie Bush?
I like a point guard who can just speed his way into the paint, and I don't think anybody has better speed than Reggie Bush. Great running back, very elusive. I don't know how that would translate into driving into the lane, but I feel better about him being able to do that than Randy Johnson.
Well, Will, you just talked about how you liked Akinwafo's blocks.
I did.
Think about how tall Randy Johnson is going to be in the paint. I don't care how fast Reggie Bush is there. Randy Johnson just has to stand up, sit there in front of the net, and block it every single time in a one-on-one game.
You do have to worry, oh, it's a one-on-one game.
Well, I assume so. This is a one-on-one game. I don't know the parameters.
We were saying who's
the better basketball player?
Yeah, I thought it was a 5-on-5 game.
It's not one-on-one. Okay, it's a team game. It's a team game.
There's a conditioning angle here where, you know, a baseball player or a pitcher, your conditioning is very specific, but it's not very reliant on running down, up and down the court for 40 minutes or however long you're going to play him. I think Bush's motor would be a lot more conducive to translate into the basketball game.
You don't need to be that fast if you're just standing in the post and blocking shots and grabbing rebounds and putting it back up. I think Randy Johnson takes
I'd assume you'd like him to play some defense. You got to get up and down there.
I'm okay.
In his own defense, stand there. You'll get a 3-second
In his own defense, you can just stand there in the paint and block shots. That's all he needs to do. But I hope you like our 2 debates today, but we're going to send it back to the desk for more.
Thanks, guys. 11th ranked USC men's volleyball is on a 2-game slide, but hopes to rebound against the number 8 Pepperdine Waves. The Trojans have struggled in MPSF play with a 2-5 conference record. Their last conference win came against Concordia University Irvine on February 16th, but they've been shaky ever since. USC will have to turn things around if they want to compete with the likes of Grand Canyon and UCLA. The Trojans will play their final 3 home games of the season after Pepperdine, and after Pepperdine, USC will take on the Brigham Young Cougars twice before heading up to Stanford. The Waves gave the Trojans trouble last time around. Taking a 3-1 set victory, USC won the first set but couldn't keep the momentum going in the next 3. Outside hitter Dylan Klein had 19 kills in the match and will hope to anchor the ship against the surging Waves once again. Annenberg Media's Drake Lee had the time to get to know setter Caleb Blanchette. Let's take a look.
It's not often that the youngest player on the team has the greatest impact. But freshman setter Caleb Blanchette has transformed the USC men's volleyball offense. The 17-year-old graduated from high school a semester early to come play volleyball in Southern California. Volleyball wasn't popular in Blanchette's home state of Tennessee. His high school didn't have a varsity volleyball team, so he played for the only volleyball club in the state, C2 Attack Volleyball. With his team made up of people from 7 different states, Blanchette said the club could not practice often.
People who would fly in for practice, people on the East Coast who didn't necessarily have a really good club team to play for. So they'd fly in, we'd practice once a month, and then we'd fly to tournaments together and play in tournaments. And it was almost like an all-star team on the East Coast. We couldn't really practice together.
Despite the obstacles, Blanchette led his team to a 72-2 overall record in his 3.5 years with the team. Blanchette's dedication caught the attention of USC head coach Jeffrey Nygaard, who decided to take a chance on him.
I heard one coach once say, it's not where you are, it's who you are. So if you're a really great volleyball player that comes from the middle of a place that doesn't have volleyball, why ask why that person popped up? Why not go get them?
And so, Blanchette joined USC in December, with matches less than a month away. The transition to collegiate volleyball was not easy for him at first.
In the first few weeks, it was hard to kind of find my voice because I felt like the little guy who couldn't really say much. But, you know, the guys on our team, they've lifted me up. They've really pushed me to be a better player, and them pushing me help lift them up too. And so it's really just an interchanging interaction that's really helped us. And, you know, we're 11th in the nation, 10th in the nation, so I'm happy.
With the season now well underway, Blanchette's teammates recognize how much he has progressed since he's joined the team.
It's honestly been a pleasure seeing his growth from when he came in December to now. Just seeing him grow as a player, start to really build connections with his hitters and learn the game of, you know, collegiate volleyball a little bit more.
For the future, Blanchette said that he wants to grow with his young teammates in the hope of winning a national championship.
Thanks, Drake. With limited games remaining, the Trojans will look to head into the MPSF tournament with some steam. But coming up, we'll check out why NFL kickoffs will look different starting this season.
Lost in translation? So Shohei Ohtani set things straight in his press conference on Monday.
In the upcoming NFL season, professional football will undergo the most significant change to gameplay the sport has seen in years. NFL team owners voted to dramatically alter the rules around the kickoff, one of the game's most iconic plays. The NFL hopes to revive the kickoff return by adopting the UFL's version of the play. Under the new rules, the kicking team's kicker will still kick from the 35-yard line, but the rest of the team will line up at their opponent's 40-yard line. The NFL hopes these changes will add excitement to otherwise dead plays, increase the number of returns, and eliminate collisions to improve the safety for players. The rule will be implemented when the season starts in March and will be reviewed after the 2024 season to solidify if it will be permanent.
Shohei Ohtani has been at the forefront of the sports world this week after he fired his interpreter, Ipe Mitsuhara, for allegedly stealing $4.5 million from him. Some speculate this to be related to sports gambling.
I want to make it clear that I never betted on sports or have willfully sent money to the bookmaker. And the season's going to start, so I'm going to obviously let my lawyers handle matters from here on out, and I am completely assisting in all investigations that are taking place right now.
It's currently unclear whether Ohtani himself is guilty of anything. At this point in the investigation into his interpreter's money matters is ongoing, and we'll have to wait and see if the Dodgers superstar is involved in any illegal activities.
Well, the Dodgers will hit the field for the first time at Dodger Stadium tomorrow against the St. Louis Cardinals. The Dodgers split their 2 first regular season games in South Korea, but will hope to feed off the home crowd's excitement in Los Angeles. Newly acquired righty Tyler Glasnow will toe the rubber in the first game with Bobby Miller and Yoshinobu Yamamoto in games 2 and 3. LA has fall classic dreams and will field a squad consisting of potential MVPs, All-Stars, and future Hall of Famers. Let's take a look at the World Series odds. The Dodgers are favored to take home the hardware for the second time in 5 years, with the NL East juggernaut Atlanta Braves right behind them. The American League's Astros, Yankees, and reigning champion Rangers are also expected to make deep runs. So I know it's early, season starts tomorrow, but who do you guys have winning the 2024 World Series?
I have the Atlanta Braves. They've been They've improved their pitching staff. It's the best pitching staff they've had in this decade, with pitchers like Spencer Strider and Max Fried, not to mention Ronald Acuna Jr., who was the MVP of the National League. I think they have a great rotation, great players lined up. Like you said, it's early, but I could see them winning it this year.
You know, I'm going to go the Baltimore Orioles. They have two of the best young pieces in baseball with Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Sorensen, I really think they can get it done. Both of them are only going to get better from here on out.
Well, I'm also taking the orange and black, but not the Orioles. I'm taking the San Francisco Giants, a team that vastly improved in many facets of the game in the offseason. The Giants' rotation now consists of the reigning Cy Young and Blake Snell, who they signed last week, and runner-up Logan Webb, who's been with the team for a while. And that goes with signings of Matt Chapman, the power-hitting third baseman, Jorge Soler, who hit 36 homers last season. Bear in mind, the Giants have not had a 30-plus home run hitter since Barry Bonds. And look, Jung-Hoo Lee added, the Korean phenom. This team is stacked, and I have them, in a tough NL West division, maybe making the wild card and going on a deep run. We saw last year 2 wild card teams made the World Series. It can be done in the Bay Area.
But Casey, let's put your bias aside for a second as a Bay Area sports fan. I don't think they'll get it done.
I don't want to hear it. But that's all the time we have for today. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Casey Kasliner.
I'm Terrence Holton.
And I'm Grace Schneider. We'll see you next week at the same time, same place.